Good morning and afternoon. Continuing off where we left off. Where did we leave off? I think it was she was just captured and she saw all the torturing going on. Now, sniffle, 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 sniffle. How long have I been crying? I don't even know how long I've been comforted like this. My grandfather's hand is on my cheek to comfort me. I'm holding his hand lovingly and pressing my cheek against it. Are you okay? Grandpa. Sniffle. Wah. My grandfather put his other hand on my head. The warmth of his palms gradually calmed me down. Piles of documents were all around me. It was a mistake to sort through data while lying on a fluffy carpet. I must have fallen asleep and had a terrible dream. If you sleep facing down, the pressure on your chest makes it easier to have nightmares. I've heard that multiple times. Is that actually true? It's getting quite late. You know, like when your cat lays on your chest. Why don't you go to sleep, Miyoko? I'm fine. I took a nap, so I'm not sleepy anymore. I'm almost done, so I'm going to finish up, okay? You have school tomorrow. You should go to sleep, otherwise you'll get scolded for yawning again. I've been going to bed late recently. Because of that, I yawn a lot at school. My teacher must have written a note to my grandfather. I'm fine. I'll go to sleep as soon as I'm done. So please, let me finish, okay? Besides, you shouldn't mind me. Go back to your study and continue with your article. Forget. You right there. Save that and close it. Okay. The day for him to present his findings is approaching. He's been working so hard, devoting himself to his research, but there's unfortunately a limit to what an individual can do. He needs a collaborator in order to go further with his research. He has to explain that his investigation could be the key to solving the mysteries of human behavior, and make people understand just how important his work is. But as this research is about a very complicated subject, so he couldn't seek assistance from just anyone. Someone will be able to help him one day. Believing that, my grandfather earnestly continued his research. I want to help him more, but all I can do is sort through his data and tidy up his materials. I also assist him around the house so he can concentrate more on his research. He always tells me how helpful I am, but that isn't enough for me. I will study hard, get into a good college, and learn many things, so I can actually be of assistance to his research. I'm a mediocre student right now, and I don't particularly like school, but I'll do it. I want to help my grandfather. If his heart were to fail and he couldn't continue his research, I wouldn't hesitate to cut open my chest and offer my heart up for him. If he needs lungs, I'll give him my lungs. If any of his organs fail, I'll give him mine. There's nothing strange about those feelings. They're perfectly normal ones. For if he had found me even a day later, I might not have been alive. Or even if I lived, it would either be without my body intact, or with my mind lost to me. In other words, I'm alive because my grandfather came to save me. If he hadn't rushed to find me, I wouldn't be here. So I won't hesitate to give up my life for him. Moreover, I'd be more than happy to do that. Even though I want to be with him forever, human lives aren't immortal. Just like how my parents died, it happens. So suddenly, without any warning. Oh, the cat needs to be removed. Give me one moment. Come on. Oh, there we go. Alright. Coming back. I'll never heal from my parents' deaths. But now that I have my grandfather, I'm not sad. However, his existence isn't eternal either. He may disappear all of a sudden for any unexpected reason, like death. Just like my parents. That's why I wish to be part of him. That way, no matter what happens, we'll be together forever. I don't want to be alone ever again. I want to be with my grandfather forever. I want to help him forever. Okay. Then be sure to go to sleep after you finish this, okay? Promise? Yep, I promise. We pinky promised after that. We smiled at each other, and my grandfather went back to his study. The dried up tears are making my cheeks itch. I headed to the bathroom to wash my face and brush my teeth. I looked at my face in the mirror. None of my grandfather's features are recognizable on my face. Of course they aren't. We're not related. He must have a family too, but I've never heard about them. He doesn't seem to want to talk about that subject, so I don't ever ask him about it. I don't care if he has real grandchildren or not. Even if I'm not related to him, I'm a granddaughter of Hifumi Takano. I'm not just a granddaughter either. I want to be more than that. I don't want a parent and child relationship, nor a lover's relationship, nothing like that. I want something more absolute that binds our souls, something that not even a tragedy can destroy. I'm Miyoko Takano, Hifumi Takano's granddaughter. Maybe it should be Mio instead. That's what my grandfather sometimes calls me. I want to succeed Hifumi's spirit. Since his name counts from 1 to 3, I want us to share that 3 and be the 4th in his line. Today my name changes. I wrote that new name in the mirror. Mio Takano. What a wonderful name for the new me. Colonel, sir. Good to see you again. Takano-kun, come on. No more Colonel stuff. No, no. I was worried when I heard you were ill. You sure look great now. My grandfather always told me he doesn't have any friends. He used to tell me everyone died in the war. But that's not true. He has one very close friend. This is him. He's an elderly man my grandfather calls Colonel Koizumi. I don't know exactly where they met, but every time they get together, all they talk about is the military and the war. So I guess that's where they met. Look at you, Mio-chan. How tall are you now? We just had a physical checkup the other day, and I think I've grown 2 centimeters. That's wonderful. Good girl. Make sure you eat well, play a lot, and grow big and healthy. I envy you, Takano-kun, for having such a cute granddaughter. Mr. Koizumi knows that my grandfather and I aren't related, but he always calls me his granddaughter. That makes me very happy, so I poured a little more black tea in his cup. After I finished serving tea, I left with a bow. I want to stay and listen and talk, but I guess my grandfather doesn't want me to hear stories of the war, so he always makes me leave. I left before I was told to, but having to leave doesn't mean I need to go to a different room. I just headed to the other side of this huge living room instead. Although I'm not right by them, I can still sit on a sofa and listen to their conversation. And if they need something, I can come help them right away. I try to earn points that way to prove I'm useful. I sat on a sofa far away from them, and started reading an encyclopedia. While doing that, I tried to listen to their conversation. That's great. The professors said they want to come over on Sunday, the week after next. Really? Thank you very much, Koizumi-san. Don't mention it. This just means the report you wrote was that interesting, Takano-kun. They're showing a lot of interest. They even said it's possible that this research could receive the Nobel Prize. A Nobel Prize? That sounds wonderful. My grandfather laughed. Since he laughed so cheerfully, something great must have happened. Mr. Koizumi must have showed the society the essay my grandfather was about to announce, and gauged their reactions. And supposedly they find it extremely interesting. That means they recognize the value of my grandfather's research. That makes me happy too. But what worries me is that you'll get infected with the syndrome yourself. Make sure you don't end up clawing out your own throat, okay? Well, maybe I'm already infected. But Hinamizawa syndrome is harmless if you live a normal life. It was a dangerous disease back when the villagers believed in Oyashiro-sama and bound themselves with strict rules. But those have faded over time, and now people rarely show symptoms unless something major happens. After that many cases, a patient's emotional state has a lot to do with how the syndrome develops. As long as you live a normal life, there's nothing to worry about. So when one is under a lot of pressure, like during the war, the disease gets worse. That's right. Well, there's nothing to worry about. The subjective symptom of the initial stages is a paranoia akin to that in depression. Once you notice it happening, you can teach yourself to relax emotionally and physically by using my breathing method, and you should also get at least 9 hours of sleep a night over a 1 week period. That's how you prevent it from worsening. In fact, of all the Hinamizuan soldiers under my direction, not even one died mysteriously. As he talks, Grandfather started demonstrating the Takano breathing method, and a bizarre exercise technique. According to him, this technique relaxes the body and lets blood and lymphatic fluid flow smoothly. As a result, you relax emotionally too. But the movements involved in the technique are so weird, I had to look away because my grandfather looked so silly. That was the one thing about his research that I felt bad about. Oh. Grandfather asked me to do this exercise too. I don't want to make him sad, so I do it when instructed. I'm glad to hear that. Hideo Noguchi died in the middle of his research, so please be careful, okay? However, Noguchi-sensei's great work is still acknowledged even after his death. As a researcher, I'm sure that was his long-term goal. Who is that? Oh. Grandfather tells me about him often. He was born as the son of a poor farmer, but he studied hard and became a doctor. However, he was mistreated because of his background, so he left Japan. He moved to the United States. There he made many accomplishments as a researcher. He discovered a vaccine for yellow fever. There we go, thank you. Grandfather's background is somewhat similar to his, so he often said that of all researchers, he admired him the most. Hideo Noguchi died in North Africa. While he discovered a vaccine for yellow fever, he heard it wasn't effective on yellow fever in North Africa. He went there to research it, came down with the disease, and died. A researcher losing his life for his research. Sometimes that's a test of a researcher's courage. In that sense, Grandfather is very brave to visit Hinamizawa himself to gather information. He himself says he may already be infected. Although, my grandfather estimates from ancient texts that the Hinamizawa syndrome was only a menace centuries ago, and now it's no different from the usual bacteria that share a symbiosis with humans. Many people became ill with the disease during the war, but that was because they were in an extremely abnormal situation. In today's peaceful environment, it's almost impossible for a person to develop symptoms. He sounds very optimistic, but he never brought me with him to Hinamizawa, so maybe he isn't as optimistic as all that. However, since I live with him, there's a possibility that I'm already infected as well. But I'm not worried at all. That's because my grandfather has taught me that as long as I maintain myself physically and emotionally, I won't develop any symptoms. I know all about the horrible terminal symptoms of Hinamizawa syndrome, while I'm not overly fearful of them. Grandfather is enjoying his conversation with Mr. Koizumi. That's understandable. Mr. Koizumi told him some people showed great interest in his report. They even want to come over on Sunday, the week after next, to meet and talk to him directly. I'm repeating what was said 10 minutes ago. With the rapid advance of modern medicine, unexplored frontiers are steadily dwindling. Was it possible the Hinamizawa syndrome my grandfather discovered might be a new continent in the field? It'll be decided in 2 weeks. It sounds like there will be more than one person coming, and it also sounds like they're all important people in society. They're all rich and famous, yet they aren't satisfied with just that. They all want to be involved in something that's worth an international award. This is a chance to gain assistance and sponsorship at the same time. I'll see you in 2 weeks. I'll make sure to be here. Good luck. Thank you very much. I owe you everything. It's too early to say that. Let's wait until you find some sponsors. When that time comes, let's have a toast with that treasured wine of yours. That was the last of their conversation. My grandfather kept his head bowed until Mr. Koizumi was gone. It sounded like he set up this great chance for my grandfather, so I bowed my head just like him. Did you hear that? Finally, there's a chance for me. There are people who are interested in my report. I know, I heard. Now you'll have people to fund you and people to help with your research. Well, that's not set in stone yet. Although he didn't want to admit it, he had a good feeling about it. The research he had conducted all alone was finally about to gain recognition. Sunday, the week after next? Quite. I'll be busy. Their first impression depends on my presentation. I have to rearrange my data. No. I probably should practice explaining things in front of people. Anyway, I have to make sure I don't forget anything. Boy, it'll be a lot of work to rearrange your data. Your handwriting is bad, so maybe you should write bigger. Anyway, I'll be busy. The next 2 weeks will go by fast. You're right. I'll help you too. All the formalin jars have to be dusted. Also, we'll need to straighten the curve on our rolled up documents. Do you think that leaving them laid out under the rug overnight would fix it? We have plenty of things to do. Mio, could you help me? Of course. I'll skip school for it. No, you can't miss school. We laughed together, thrust our fists into the air, and motivated ourselves to work hard toward the week after next. Since that day, my grandfather spent more time in his study. It's not easy to create a report that you're going to show other people. Copying machines hadn't been invented back then, so everything had to be handwritten. He knows it somewhere, but he just can't remember where he put the data he needs. As for me, I have to make sure I have enough guest cups to serve tea, so I'm counting them. Do I have enough tea leaves? Maybe I should get something to go with tea. My grandfather knows nothing about these things. There's a whole list of chores to do. I need to clean the windows so the room will be right. What else? The 2 weeks pass quickly while we busy ourselves getting things done. What a wonderful 2 weeks it is. I can finally feel that I'm actually doing something to help my grandfather with his research. I hope the day of the meeting will be a more memorable one for my grandfather. I hope that day will be a beautiful and clear one. Rain. Well, just as I wish the day is beautiful. And then the sunset. Evening. My grandfather, having dressed formally, paced around his study nervously. I'm also in a beautiful dress. I've only worn it once before, at my piano recital. But I'm not nervous like my grandfather. His silly nervousness actually relaxes me. Are they here yet? Grandfather looked out of the window. Then a black car stopped in front of the gate. Back then, a car was a luxury item. I don't think I had even one classmate whose family owned a car. So it only makes sense that the men coming out of the car look respectable. Grandfather and I ran out to welcome them. Welcome, I'm Takano. Thank you for coming today. May I take your jacket? I greeted them and filled the role we decided ahead of time. Though my being relaxed by my grandfather's silliness ended at that point. Both my grandfather and I were stiff with anxiety as we greeted them now that the moment was here. Nice to meet you, Doctor. And hello, young lady. Are you his granddaughter? Yes. Mio, please say hello. Very nice to meet you. I'm Mio Takano. What a good girl. I'm here in place of Koizumi-sensei. Something came up and he can't make it today. He's very sorry. I see. I'm sorry to hear that. The person who set up everything isn't here. My grandfather even had his treasured wine ready, just as they promised 2 weeks ago. Everyone, let me introduce you. This is Dr. Hifumi Takano. Dr. Takano was a leading member of the Research Center for the Prevention of Epidemics in Manchuria during the war. He made many advances in developing synthetic food and synthetic alcohol as measures against malnutrition and ration shortages. The canned food. Oh, and that's the branch of Hinamizawa, of course, so that's where the story comes from. Nice to meet you. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you for having me. The men are even older than my grandfather. They take off their hats one at a time to greet him. Their beards, expensive-looking canes, and glasses tell me they are very high up in the society. Grandfather bows to each of one of them. Everyone, please come into the study. Ah, please excuse the mess. Come in, come in. Mio, serve tea for everyone. Yes. I wasn't nervous at all earlier, but now I think I'm the most nervous one. I'm not the one making the presentation, and I'm not the one being evaluated, so it's ridiculous that I'm feeling so nervous. It's just you're making him look a bit better by serving tea and whatnot. I don't know if I should use that as my excuse, but I was so nervous that I knocked over the thermos I had filled to the brim with hot water, and ruined the black tea I had chosen specifically for this day. I apologized to my grandfather and started to boil water again. I just needed enough for the guests. By the time I had cups of tea and cookies ready, grandfather's presentation was at its key part. It pierces the blood or lymph node vessels and spreads to the spinal cord, and from there, it travels along the cerebral spinal fluid to the brain. I've confirmed many cases of encephalitis after autopsies. Eosinophilic meningos, meningoencephalitis is known to be caused by roundworm, and we predict its behavior to be extremely similar. Grandfather said, walking between samples and formalin jars and pointing to several as he gave his explanation. There are over 100 formalin jars in here with parts of brains in them. They were all very dusty, so I spent a few days cleaning them. I'm rather proud to see the sparkling jars all lined up like this. However, roundworms induce an extremely wide range of symptoms. A headache, narcosis, derangement. None of those are characteristic symptoms of roundworms. On the other hand, symptoms of Hinamizawa syndrome are very specific to that disease. You're saying one of them is to claw out one's throat, yes? A teaspoon. Exactly. Some soldiers witnessed it just before their fellows died. Such self-mutilation was never seen before in any disease. It only occurs in Hinamizawa syndrome. Also, since that symptom was only seen with terminal stage patients, I believe that's a mean of exodus, something we've seen before in several parasites. Parasites mature inside of an organism, reproduce, then leave the host and look for the next one. So what do you think about the fact that the cases were only seen in the soldiers from Hinamizawa, even though other soldiers touched their blood, which must have been full of parasitic eggs or larvae? See ya. Don't you think there was a possibility of them getting infected? I suspected things like an incubation period, but since it was limited to people from the Hinamizawa region, I believe something such as the unique local climate must play a role. I'll talk about that in the next part, but the ancient indigenous beliefs of Hinamizawa have... That can't be possible, Dr. Takano. I've never heard of parasites behaving socially. Yes, well, that is one of the revolutionary discoveries in the Hinamizawa syndrome. The elderly gentlemen mumbled to each other while pointing at the data. Well, with that, I finally realized things aren't going too well. Dr. Takano, I've been reviewing your data while listening to your gracious presentation. First of all, it is simply impossible for parasites to control human minds. Human thoughts are controlled by the brain, which is a work of art created by God. Furthermore, ideology is an extremely advanced aspect of human thought. It's an advanced capability bestowed only to humans on this planet. Yet you would say parasites intervene in that? Please, that's absurd. I agree. Ideology can also be considered a manner of thought that prioritizes the whole over the individual, just like some parasites behaving socially. In other words, that's the most important prerequisite condition for a society. There's no way parasites would be gifted with that, when their only demand is to pass on their genes. In the field of biology, there's never once been a discovery of sociality or eusociality within parasites. But there are cases of parasites interfering with the host behavior. You're misunderstanding one thing, Dr. Takano. The principle that drives parasites capable of controlling their hosts is always reproduction and propagation. It's only that primitive concept. Even in the example you used before, of a rat infected with Toxoplasma gondii losing its aversion to cats, the altered behavior is simply a means to let their host be eaten by a better host in order to change hosts. That's just like a grasshopper infected with a horsehair worm drowning itself. Once a horsehair worm matures, it becomes aquatic. When that happens, it guides a grasshopper to the water and drowns it, then enters the environment it's adapted for. Exactly. The suicidal act of clawing out one's throat corresponds to that in the case of Hinamizawa syndrome. For example, guinea worms escape the body by having the host scratch the affected area. Indeed, the purpose of all these parasites is reproduction. For them to infest the brain, God's masterpiece. No. Infecting the brain itself isn't that strange. But to say they infest it and influence human ideology is frankly delusional. In fact, that's a dangerous idea. Dangerous. I don't think it's that strange that Hinamizawa, an isolated culture, developed its own unique fate. There are actually many examples of that all over Japan. So are you saying all of them were due to parasites? Or that they were all due to cultural reasons, except the one in Hinamizawa, which was caused by parasites? How do you establish the distinction? By proving that one has parasites and the other doesn't. Well, as I said in my autopsies on the Hinamizawan soldiers who died in the war, there was sufficient evidence to believe Excuse me, Dr. Takano. I don't think you've gathered enough case studies to call it clinical data. Furthermore, as you said, it was during the war. No, I mean, as I explained in the next part. Hinamizawa syndrome develops when one experiences suspicion, nervousness, and stress, and becomes emotionally unbalanced. I think it's a unique approach to suspect some manner of commonality, if there were several cases of unique and bizarre self-mutilation, such as clawing one's throat out. Yet, that's all the more reason it's unreliable. Maybe it was just a coincidence that such rare cases happened under abnormal circumstances like the war. Just ignore that it was only those people. I believe you witnessed the convergence of coincidences, and trapped in a gestalist view, delude yourself into finding a pattern. To prove otherwise, you would need an enormous amount of clinical data on Hinamizawa syndrome patients. But ethically, that's impossible to prove. The natives' act of recognizing it as a curse suggests it's more within the realm of culture-bound syndromes, and you think that is a delusion of delusional parasitic disease? I hate to say this, but I think you admire the beliefs of the Hinamizawans a little too much, and as a result, you yourself has been taken in by their culture-bound reactive syndrome. Actually, that happens quite often with people who research more unusual fields of study. We're trying to be careful ourselves. Ha 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 ha. The more they talk, the paler my grandfather's face becomes. I was just stunned myself. We've never heard of parasites like that. That's impossible. It was just a coincidence, and there isn't enough data. The talk goes on, and every time grandfather says something, they dismiss it like that. Before he knew it, my grandfather could only hold his silence before their criticisms. Well, no revolutionary discovery is accepted at first. Maybe this research of yours is one of those things. Even if it's ridiculed at first, it may achieve recognition in later years. That happens all the time. I'm just an amateur. Just a private researcher who didn't graduate from an elite college. Nor do I belong to any academic clique. I don't have any connections with experts or research centers. That's why this is all I can do. Is the Hinamizawa syndrome real? Or is it just my delusion, just like you all say it is? To find out, I need your help. Of course, if this was the discovery of the century, it would create a major uproar. After all, you're suggesting that human culture and ideology is all the will of parasites, and our frontal lobe is a place for them to live. Ha ha ha! What an audacious theory! If a link between the existence of this Hinamizawa syndrome and the disease carrier's belief in Oyasho-sama could be established, then it would be possible to explain all religions. No, all cultural divisions on Earth. What a magnificent and unique idea. Let's not do anything with it. Instead of showing people like us your essays in secret, you should publish a book about it for the general public. Grandfather looks at the ground, his fists trembling a little. But their words were far too cruel. It's actually a good point. Just release a book and have people read it. Then get the research done. I don't know anything about academics. I'm just a little girl. I don't know exactly what they're talking about, but Grandfather worked so hard by himself until today. But to prove his research and delve further into it, he needs sponsors. Yet those sponsors are casting him away, calling his research a delusion. That's outrageous. Like asking which came first, the chicken or the egg. Besides, if his research was at the level those cheeky men want to see, he wouldn't need their help. But they're saying that they can't help him unless they see some results that are beyond the level of private research. In any field, doesn't research always start out with just a little idea? If you can prove its existence beforehand, then what's the point of researching it to begin with? If a wild idea can't be the subject of research, how do we gain any knowledge at all? But never mind that. When Mr. Koizumi came 2 weeks ago, didn't he say they were really interested in his research? What's going on? This is the complete opposite of what he said. I was skipping through, I guess. Yes, I think this is very interesting research. The human brain still holds many secrets. Dr. Takano's idea is an extremely unique one. It seems impossible to ignore, especially from a eugenics perspective. Humans are not God's children. We're simply animals who underwent the baptism of evolution. As such, according to Darwin, there will be differences in that evolution based on environment. In other words, humans can be either superior or inferior. As a nation, we must think how we can maintain good bloodlines and how we can leave good genes behind. If we don't raise that as a national policy and research towards it, then by the next century, mankind may fall to a fatal position on the hierarchy. Dr. Takano's research has the potential of encompassing more than just parasitic diseases. If the evil, inferior humans we shouldn't let breed can actually be explained by a disease instead of genetics, then it becomes possible to correct their behaviors through surgery. As a result, we can leave wonderful people for our future. From the eugenic point of view, Dr. Takano's research should get started immediately. It's possible this could be the greatest discovery since Monize's invention of the lobotomy. If causality between infectious diseases and an individual's nature could be established, that will be more than Nobel Prize worthy. Koizumi-sensei, thank you for giving us this chance. Takano-kun is a single-minded and passionate man, but he's not good at dealing with people. He's been working on his research all by himself, but now he's hit the limit of what one person can do, and he needs help. Please, everyone, listen to what Takano-kun has to say. Oh, you don't even need to ask, Sensei. We're the ones who should be thanking you for this opportunity. We're already willing to help him. In fact, the more urgent matter will be arranging jurisdictions within society. I would like to thank you for giving me an opportunity to be involved in such a unique research project at this age. There was a knock on the door. The sliding door opened and the owner peeked in. Excuse me. There's someone asking for you. May I bring him? Someone? Who could it be? The owner whispered into Koizumi's ears, and his face turned pale all of a sudden. Please, let him in. No, I'll come greet him with you. As Koizumi stood up, 2 pairs of footsteps reached the door. Sensei, I didn't expect you to be here. Koizumi-kun, long time no see. I have something I need to tell you today. Yes, if you need to tell me something, I'm all ears. Please, go ahead. The old man known as Koizumi was not someone whose status could be taken lightly. Although he had retired, he was still powerful enough to wield great influence as a fixer. So from his meek attitude, it was easy to figure out what kind of person this man must be. The old man held onto his bodyguard's shoulder as he walked. He had an expensive-looking cane in his other hand. He couldn't even walk on his own because of his old age. But his intense, commanding presence hadn't declined one bit. I'll get straight to the point. Your friend's research. You need to put a stop to that. Huh? What do you mean? Koizumi-kun, he must take his knowledge of Hinamizo syndrome to his grave. Exterminate him. Nobody should touch it. If anyone looks into it, well, if you poke a bush, a snake will come out. A big fat snake, too. It would pain me to just watch you get swallowed by it. That's why I'm here to give you some advice. Can your friends wait for a little? So how about it? Do you want to have some drinks with me in a different room? Yes. I'll come with you straight away. Koizumi realized that he was being pressured. He didn't know which direction it was coming from, but clearly some authorities weren't comfortable with the research on Hinamizo syndrome, and were trying to stop him from supporting it. You'd think he could send a little message to Takano being like, hey, turns out it might not be too good. Koizumi-kun, do you remember the Marco Polo bridge incident? Ah, right. This is utter nonsense. We came here today expecting to hear a more objective side. Normally we wouldn't come all the way here for something like this, but since Koizumi-sensei asked us, we didn't have a choice. This really was a waste of time, but in a way it was a good thing we came. We were able to give you some advice. You should take up bonsai instead of wasting the rest of your life on this. Bonsais are great. I agree. It's not healthy to just stare at formalin jars in a study. But it sure is a unique subject. If you want, I'll introduce you to the chief of a publishing company. The general public loves things like this, you know? They aren't even trying to hide their hostility. They're laughing at my grandfather, denouncing him, and saying things to denigrate not only his research, but his personality as well. If they're simply trying to provoke him, any response would just be giving them what they want. Even in this very moment, grandfather tried to remain a noble researcher and a proud human being. He's no longer trembling. On the contrary, he apologized to them for taking up their time, and told them he had no intention of keeping them any longer. That's a good response. Well, we can't waste any more of your time. We need to get you out of here right now. We'll give this article back to you, though it would be so much easier if we could actually call it an article. One of the elderly gentlemen tossed it back to him. Grandfather couldn't catch it in time. The article he worked so hard on fell onto the floor, and the papers scattered all over the carpet. What are staples? We've never heard of them. The elderly gentleman left the study without even apologizing for it. Everyone else followed suit. As they left, they trod all over my grandfather's article. It looked like Grandfather's expression didn't change, but I could see it warping. I could see the wall of research Grandfather bore crunching and warping sadly. I jumped. I grabbed onto the elderly gentleman's leg. I don't hate him. If I were asked if I hated him or not, the answer would be yes, but that's not the point here. What I really can't stand is this foot stepping all over my grandfather's article. Don't step on it! Don't step on it! Grandpa worked so hard on it! Don't step on it! I just want to move the foot that's standing on his papers. But the foot doesn't move, no matter how hard I push or pull, as if it's rooted to the floor. I felt someone grabbing me from behind. It was my grandfather. Please excuse my granddaughter. Don't worry about this. We'll clean it up. Don't step on them. I'm telling you not to step on my grandpa's article. My screams don't mean a thing to them. They completely ignored my screams. They continued to step on the papers and left the study. Only my grandfather and I remain in there now. My grandfather is still grabbing the back of my collar. I don't have any words left to say, only cries. My grandfather is determined not to show any emotion. He doesn't even open his mouth, so I have to cry for him. Just then, my grandfather slapped me in the face. That startled me. I'm crying for him, so why did he slap me? Then I understand. Grandfather is the one who wants to cry, but he's enduring, so I shouldn't cry either. I wiped my eyes and my runny nose. Then I silently turned my eyes to the papers on the carpet, just like my grandfather. Sorry, Mio. I don't understand why he's apologizing. I thought he was going to complain about their rudeness. If I had worked harder, this wouldn't have happened. Until today, you helped me so much. And it was all for nothing. Sorry about that. How courageous he is. Even after that disaster, he's still concerned about me. I shook my head and put my hands on the floor. I tried to gather up the papers, but then they began to fall. My tears are overflowing again, blurring the ink on the papers. These are all handwritten by Grandfather. He was so happy that finally there was someone who understood his research. He was so happy. He spent all night writing these. But they stepped on them. They might as well have stepped on my grandfather's very soul. I didn't work hard enough. If I had done more, this wouldn't have happened. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll work even harder. I won't give up. Because of something like this. I don't know if he's saying that to me or to himself. Don't worry. God is watching. I have to believe that I'll gain recognition. That day will come. That's why I have to keep working harder. Grandfather says that all the time. But I know the truth. God only plays with people's fate. He doesn't save anyone out of goodwill. That's why he let this happen to my grandfather, even though he's worked so hard so humbly until today. That's why he let such a horrible thing happen to me when I was still an innocent little girl. Grandfather keeps repeating himself, but I know the truth. God exists. The existence Grandfather believes in is real. But there's no mercy to be found in God. He delivers unreasonable fates and makes us call it a challenge. I can't tell my grandfather that, of course. I ask God once more, like I did on the day of the thunderstorm. Why? Why can't you give my grandfather's efforts and hard work the recognition it deserves? Grandfather told me that he'll gather up the papers, so I should put away the teacups. I nodded silently and put the teacups that hadn't even been touched onto the serving cart. As I pushed it out of the study, Grandfather told me. He told me to close the door after I leave. I always close the door when I leave. He doesn't need to remind me. But that's what he wants, so without saying anything, I closed the door. Then, as I walked away from the study, I heard my grandfather sobbing. Tears filled my eyes once more. Sadness and disappointment. I almost feel angry with myself for not being able to do anything for him. Honestly, the worst thing about this story so far, well, I mean this specific bit, is the fact that Koizumi doesn't give him a heads up after hyping him up. Then I felt a cool breeze on my wet cheeks. The breeze was blowing in from a cracked open window. The curtain was flapping gently in that breeze. I heard the cry of the Higurashi. As I listened to them, I calmed down gradually. If I can ease grandfather's pain by crying, I'll cry in his place. But that won't help. On the contrary, he started to cry because I did. I'm being useless here. I remember that day. I remember the reason why I'm alive now. If he hadn't come and saved me, I would have spent the last days of my life lying in the corner of the bathroom as a human-shaped piece of meat. Grandfather saved me. He gave me back my rights. The right to walk, the right to stand up, the right to wear clothes, the right to eat, the right to speak, and the right to think. In other words, the right to live as a human being. Grandfather took action right after he got the phone call from me. He found my house, and he found out which orphanage I was sent to, after struggling through the sloppily filed records of the public office. Then he saved me. Of course, he was working on his research then. He spent his precious research time on saving me, a perfect stranger. I vowed that if his heart failed... Of course, his heart is fine. So he doesn't need a heart. He needs something else that's equally important. That's something only I can give him in this whole world. I clenched my fists, and held them so tightly that my nails left marks. I now know what I'm supposed to do with this new life as Mio Takano. I finally know. I know the reason why the new me was born. I know the purpose of Mio Takano. To fulfill a wish and weave a desired future, the strength of a string is how strong your will is. A noble and strong wish will come true. I thought I knew of my grandfather's greatness, but I actually didn't know the half of it. For me to be able to really help him, I have to reach his level. All my lessons lead back to my grandfather. There wasn't a single subject I could ignore. Right now, studying hard is what I can do for him. Wait. Right now, studying hard is what I can do for him. I've been a teacher for a long time, but I've never seen such a hard-working student. You've learned not only academically, but socially as well. You've made a great deal of friends. I have a goal which I can only reach by studying hard. Also, I know how powerless an isolated genius is. That's why I needed to learn to socialize. That's not enough. I'm not even close to where I want to be. Entering college is only a step forward. What matters is what I learned there. I'm not even close. I'm not even close to being able to help my grandfather. I'm so proud of you. You can go to Tokyo or Ochanomizu University, or any college of your choice. Nothing will stop you. The most important thing for you is that the school will teach you what you want to learn. A big decision that inhabits a tiny soul. If my life is heavier than the earth, then my decision is heavier than the earth. Do I have what I need to be able to truly understand Hinamizuwa syndrome and help grandfather in his research? I don't need compromises or excuses. The heights I seek are lofty and precipitous. This isn't enough. Not even close. My classmates are such idiots, acting as if they're winners in life just because they entered this school. A college is simply a place to learn what I need to know. If this self-proclaimed best school isn't worth my time, I'm not interested. I didn't expect a talented woman like you to end up at this parasite research center. I'm sure everyone wanted you, huh? I assumed you were interested in something bigger. I want to study and research parasites. I've worked hard to earn the right to study here. Aren't I qualified to learn? Yes, of course. There's no reason why we would refuse someone who got the top score on the entrance exam. Welcome to the Parasite Research Center. People usually aren't that interested in our field. There aren't too many researchers who study it. That's why there are still a lot of unknown elements compared to other fields. That's quite true. The study of parasites is a mysterious world. Or rather, it's an ignorant one. An ignorant world where the preconception that parasites can't possibly control humans pervades. And those ignorant people laughed at grandfather and stepped all over his article. There are still many unsolved mysteries in the world of parasites. I'm here to solve them. I came here to help the people who want to solve them. A wish that's guaranteed to come true is not called a wish. That's fate, not a wish. I weave fate. Fate is an absolute power to control people in the world, not just an individual. Learning isn't enough for me. I have to be able to research with my grandfather, and so I don't ignore the means to gain the help my grandfather couldn't get. Grandfather's research isn't complete just when it's finished being written on a desk. I need the help of plenty of people to present it to the world, so his great work will be praised by many. Yes, that's correct. This is an association only the top graduates of the Imperial University are allowed to join. Therefore, as only 7 people per year are allowed to join, it's a small group compared to a normal organization of alumni. However, its solidarity is unrivaled. Thank you for inviting me to such a gathering. I'm honored. I would like to take the lowest seat. Oh no, we can't let someone with such accomplishments and experience sit in the lowest seat. I'm sure everyone will welcome you. The cabinet minister and several important government officials, company presidents, and company advisors will be here. They'll all need you, and they'll provide the help you need. Koizumi-sensei belongs to this association, right? He was my grandfather's best friend. What a coincidence. I see. I'm sure Koizumi-sensei will be glad to find out that you'll be joining. An isolated genius is a useless one. People live in society. Society is made up of connections between parasites. Nobody can implement that. I do my best as an individual, but to gain the power that can't be achieved as a mere individual, I have to rely on my connections in society. It's all for one purpose. My only wish is Mio Takano. Yes, I can't spare any effort. My absolute conviction will forge a guaranteed future. Nobody can interfere. Nobody can stop me. I won't allow the die to roll a 1. I won't admit that diligent efforts can be erased by a mere train accident. I'm going to make all the dice rolls 6s. I won't entrust the die to God. I won't give in to luck. The only people who pray to God are people who don't want to work hard. I don't trust God. I'm going to create results myself. My strong will is going to create an absolute future that God can't possibly prevent. This is a different way to become a god than the one my grandfather taught me. This is a way to become a god while still alive. When I realized it, I became truly free. Free from the sadness of losing my parents and my miserable life after that. Free from grandfather's tears when his article was stepped on. That's right. I'll be above God. I'll be an existence that God's caprices can't even touch. I'll make people recognize grandfather's research. That's the future I wish for. The future I promised will come to pass. People will fight over grandfather's article. People will respectfully read the same article that was once ridiculed and stepped on. Even if grandfather dies before that day comes, I won't cry over something like that. Because he already taught me, even after being buried, one can be resurrected. I'm going to complete his great work, and the whole world will praise him. Grandfather will resurrect and become a god. He will be eternal. That's an everlasting bond. A bond not even a train accident can break. A bond not even a die that rolls a 1 can disturb. Since the day of the train accident, my die has kept rolling 1s over and over. But I didn't give up. I kept working hard until today. I'll rise above the die. I'll decide what to roll on it. I'll decide my own fate. I'll do that with my unshakable willpower. Are we finally back in Hinamizawa then? When does the clinic open? Is there going to be air conditioning? I heard it'll open next month. I hope there'll be a young doctor there. Yeah. I heard some old ladies talking amongst themselves when I was going up the stairs to the shrine. The Irie clinic is already completed, and it's waiting and ready for opening day. The state-of-the-art equipment has been delivered, and the research is waiting to begin as well. Irie too is standing by in top form, and he's almost as passionate as I am about Hinamizawa syndrome. The mountain dogs, the counterintelligence unit to support and protect our research, are already stationed at a dummy company somewhere near Okonomiya. They're getting in touch with various public institutions. Everything is going well. The only thing to worry about would be the rumors about the Hinamizawa Dam construction plans. There's a rumor that the Ministry of Construction is pushing through a dam project that will submerge all of Hinamizawa, but they're under pressure from several groups. None of my contacts have much influence in the Ministry of Construction, so things aren't going well. Even if applying pressure doesn't work, there are other measures, so either way it'll come to a deadlock. I'm not being optimistic. I just know that's how it'll end. I'll conduct my research here in Hinamizawa. I'm going to accomplish that with my absolute will. That's why, even if God rolls a 1 on the die and says that he's going to submerge Hinamizawa, I will not be afraid. I won't entrust my die to God. I'm the one who's going to pick up the die, and I'm going to roll a 6. I didn't come to this shrine to declare war on the god of this place. I came because I know that you can get a great view from up here. Is this where she meets Rika, I suppose? I walked by the shrine and headed to the spot I found last time I visited. It's the perfect spot for overlooking the entire village. The strong wind reminds me that I'm only at the starting line, and that there will be a headwind before I reach my goal. I looked over the village without faltering in the wind. Grandfather approached the syndrome from a medical point of view, but he also approached it from a folkloric one as well. The strange belief system in this village is proof that the existence of Hinamizawa syndrome was already known of even in ancient times, so it will be extremely useful to research their history too. My grandfather hadn't been doing research for hundreds of years, of course, but this place has been here for hundreds of years, and they've been living with Hinamizawa syndrome for that long. Therefore, the beliefs created in this place and the legend itself can be considered the foremost researchers. It's simply stupid to just call them old folktales or nonsense. I've been researching them slowly, but they are indeed very interesting. No wonder grandfather was intrigued by them. Hinamizawa syndrome has many fascinating sides to it. It's just like a kaleidoscope showing infinite light with ever a slight change in angle. It's so much fun to trace grandfather's research. Finding the same result as my grandfather reminds me that I am indeed following in his footsteps, which makes me very happy. This shrine is dedicated to Oyashiro-sama, the guardian deity of the village. But this god the villagers worship is simply a delusion that was created by the parasites. When I solve their secret and announce it to the world, the god of this place will be no more. That's the moment I will take revenge on the one who put me through misery and tested my fate. That's it, isn't it? This isn't just about making my grandfather's dreams come true. It's also about getting revenge for my miserable life. I went back to the front of the shrine. There's an offertory box there, and I'm tempted to throw in some coins. But you normally offer coins to ask for mercy. I don't entrust my fate to God, so I don't need to give an offering. I'm going to unmask him. But until then, Oyashiro-sama is a god. Okay, in that case, I'll show respect for now. As a declaration of war, I pulled out a 10 yen coin from my wallet. The 10 yen coin I found in the telephone booth changed my life. If it hadn't been there, my life would have ended then. I'm grateful at least for that 10 yen coin. I'm not grateful to the god of this shrine, though. But I haven't forgiven you yet. I never expected anything from you, and I'm here because of my own hard work. Even if you keep playing tricks of fate, or keep rolling a 1 on the die, that won't bother me. With my strong will, I'm going to get what I want. My grandfather will be praised, and become a god because of the research I'll do in this place. I will defeat the god of this village, and become an existence above even gods. Since when did I care about God, huh? Maybe because my grandfather often talked about him? Here, this is the 10 yen coin you gave me before. My debt's paid off now. You just keep clinging to your throne and tormenting people with your trials, while I fight my battles to knock you down from there. And so, I chucked the 10 yen I once borrowed from God into the offertory box. Eh? For a moment, I couldn't understand what happened. The 10 yen coin was supposed to fall into the offering box. But how can I explain this? That's not what happened. I aimed correctly for certain. Who could miss an offertory box anyway? That's not it. Because the 10 yen coin stopped in midair, as if it got stuck in a spider web. Then it bounced back to me and fell by my feet. It was as though the offertory box had refused the coin. Of course, an offertory box is to respect God, but what I did was challenge him. That means this is. I jumped, because I thought I was the only one here. Anyone would jump when finding there's someone else standing there unexpectedly. How long has she been there? It's like she came out from the shrine. The mysterious girl is standing on the other side of the offering box. She's wearing a shrine maiden uniform, so she must be one of the caretakers here. That's what I thought too. But there's something else about her. She's not just one of the shrine caretakers. She is the shrine itself. Because the girl is staring into my eyes. No, she's glaring. I smiled back fearlessly. I think she heard my words of challenge to God. She's wearing that expression on her face because of that. The words came out naturally. You are the god of this place, aren't you? The girl didn't nod, but I took that as a yes. What a contradictory feeling. I'm rejecting the god of this land, denying its very existence. Yet I don't doubt this girl is that god. The girl opened her mouth to speak. A strong will reinforces fate. That's right. That's why I say to myself often. I've never said that to anyone or quoted it from anything. So, under normal circumstances, I should be surprised to hear this girl say that. But this girl isn't human, so I'm not surprised. I replied to her, God throws the die of fate and has fun with people, depending on what he gets. But people have willpower. The stronger the willpower, the less chance of being bound by the result of the die. You see, people can gain a power that's strong enough to fight fate, by working to their limits. Yes, I understand that very well. An unshakable conviction defeats the die of fate. That's right. That is mankind's revenge against the gods who toy with them by dice roll. The hymn of those would slough the gain's interference and forge their own destiny. Know my divinity, and that I earned this day through effort after enduring all misfortune. Spiteful laughter flowed out of my mouth. But the girl's face displayed a strong will of her own. Her expression didn't even change a bit. I understand very well. No matter how many times we repeat, our fate doesn't change. That was all because of your strong willpower. That's right. A strong will reinforces fate. That fate so empowered isn't bothered by the result of a die. That means it's an absolute future. You, a human, found that truth before us gods, who have been living for hundreds of years. I admit it. Your existence is close to that of a god. I'm honored. The girl glared at me with her eyes half shut. No, it was more like she was proclaiming something to me, while displaying her own strong willpower. I won't be defeated this time. We always thought we couldn't win against you. That was why I surrendered. I abandoned hope and crawled around in the wheel of life. But then I learned, the power of belief can cause a miracle that forges your destiny. Are you saying you'll cause a miracle using your strong will that will defeat the destiny woven by mine? That's logical enough. Because that's the law of this world. A strong will can make a desired future possible. We won't be defeated by your will. That's fine, so you insist on being an old god. Try it and see if your willpower can defeat mine. God tests people, yet people aren't allowed to test God. So I'm going to test you here. See if your willpower can defeat mine. Come on, go ahead, try it. That's clearly a declaration of war from me to God. This is the beginning of my revenge towards God, who put me through so much misery. And this girl, this god, is accepting my challenge directly. I'm not as powerful as you are. I can't do as many things as you can. Even if my willpower is as strong as yours, you're still more powerful than I am. That's right. I've gained an overwhelming power. You have absolutely no idea what I had to go through to gain it. You can't even touch me. I know. I know how powerful you are. Compared to yours, the power my friends and I command is insignificant. But I can choose not to give up. I won't admit my loss. I won't give up until the day when your die rolls 1 and my die rolls 6. I'll prove the strength of my willpower by not surrendering to you for eternity. Stacking up stones on the riverbed will allow us to cross the river, and appear before you as an equal. And that's when this long battle of fate will come to an end. Fine, come on then. We'll see who has the stronger will. Whoever has the stronger conviction will create the future. The future desired by the stronger conviction will come to pass. I will hold my ground. In my future, my grandfather's great work is praised, and he becomes a god. And I take revenge on God for testing me by making me go through such misery. Stupid little god. I'll show you. I'll drag you down from your pedestal. Chapter 8. Matsuri Bayashi. I guess we finally switch from Mio's perspective then. And I guess that chapter ends as well. Man, they put on some good music for these chapters. Finish the prologue. So, of course, there's no tips from the prologue. That's good. Welcome! Welcome to the world of Higurashi Chapter 8, Matsuri Bayashi. In this world, you'll be able to recreate the story from Hanyu's point of view. Your objective is to create the June 1983 ideal to you. You'll need to collect many different fragments to make that possible. However, Takano's conviction is very strong. To overturn it, you'll need a lot of effort and a lot of fragments. I'll warn you right now, it'll be a slow and painful process. Hanyu went through it for over 100 years, and she even had to stop and give in to fate. Defeating Takano's conviction will not be easy. The trial in this world will put you through as much pain as Hanyu had to endure. You may surrender, just like Hanyu did, after being emotionally worn down by the constant repetition of the worlds woven by countless fragments. When you feel like surrendering, just quit the game. You can end this game at any time. But if you do, the worlds revolving around your friend's fate will be limited to Onikakushi through Minagoshi. By forgetting about this world and uninstalling this product, you will finally accept death, just like Rika did. Your ideal June 1983 can be created by putting together 50 fragments that are scattered all over this world. To connect these fragments together, you will need the right ones. There are 50 of them, which may be dizzying. However, this world isn't that merciless. To ease your pain, there will be a little help for you. When you choose the wrong pieces, your only ally here will give you a sign that it's not yet time to put those fragments together. As long as the sign remains, you won't be able to connect them. You might as well go look for different ones. After you put other fragments together, you might be able to connect the ones you couldn't put together earlier. When that happens, she'll let you know. Let's put those fragments together. Then you'll be able to join the other ones too. When you connect all 50, they'll become one big fragment. There, you'll find your ideal June 1983. That's when the long-awaited Matsuri Bayashi will begin. Before you peek at each fragment, why don't you line up all 50 of them first? Most of them require other fragments, so there are only a few you can actually look at. Let's try to find those first. To see the conditions for connecting fragments, just point the cursor at them. Before anything else, let's find the ones you can look at without any conditions. This will be an extremely long and difficult trial. Let me tell you again, Hanyu challenged us for over 100 years and gave up on it. If you believe in miracles in the same way your friends do, even if you don't live in the world where they live, if you believe in them, welcome. Welcome to the world of... Test to see if you believe in the world that Rika and the others believed in. Miracle only happens when everyone combines their strength. 1983 by Takano is nearly indomitable. She's gathered many people whose powers are beyond the average person to her side, her backer is being at the center of national authority. Even if 100 dice all rolled once, there wouldn't be a chance to defeat her. In other words, a miracle is the only way forward. A miracle happens only when everyone combines their strength, and you are one of them. So do I actually get gameplay? Are you ready? I'm more than ready. The key to a long journey is not to pressure yourself too hard. Well, let's take it at a light pace. I'll work while drinking my usual wine. Shall we begin? We have all the time in this world. I'm really curious, are they going to actually have me do puzzling? Where it's like, this situation happens, this one doesn't. Like, obviously, Keiichi can't leave the village early on. You have obtained new fragments. Okay. Connecting fragments. Okay, we're gonna save right there then, because this is hilarious. C-103. Huh? Destination of the death of the construction site. Hospitalization of a live specimen for research is required. A tragedy at the dam. The third sacrifice. That's much later. Third year. Help from the Queen Carrier. Oh, that's that one. Fourth sacrifice. So basically you just go through. This fragment is required first. So we click it. Sorry for being late. I had an unusually large number of patients today. Thank you for coming, Lieutenant Colonel Irie. Tomitake stood up suddenly and saluted when he saw Irie come into the room. Alright. Stop calling me Lieutenant Colonel. I'm a doctor. I just can't get used to military ranks. Can you call me Director instead? Understood, Director Irie. Tomitake, of course, knew that Irie didn't like to be called Lieutenant Colonel, so it was something of a joke. They laughed casually together. On the other hand, Takano looked rather fed up with it. She couldn't stand hearing the same joke over and over, and was even thinking about talking to Tomitake about it. But she didn't want to hurt his feelings, so she simply never had the chance. Maybe it's because of how Tomitake pronounces it, but she keeps hearing Risa. Lieutenant Colonel in Japanese, Nisa. What? Once she heard it that way, she kept hearing Risa every time Tomitake said it. When Takano told Irie about it, he had a good laugh. Today was just a simple meet and greet. Tomorrow was the actual meeting. Tomitake had already arrived, but there would be more inspectors from Tokyo at the meeting, waiting to hear about the progress that had been made. Anyway, I heard the whole village is all up in arms about the dam construction project. You can say that again. The village is in such a mess. I participated in the local municipal explanation meeting as an official, but the whole thing was alive with angry shouts and profanities. After the basic Hinamizawa Dam project was announced, the village was consumed with uproar. The government retracted their plans for concessions rather early on. They made their aggressive stance clear. They didn't want the locals to take advantage of them by showing their willingness to compromise. However, that backfired horribly. As they had historical ties to the land, the government's action only made their bonds stronger. Neither the government nor the locals wanted to back down. People from Hinamizawa are rather hot-tempered. Maybe because they're the descendants of demons. It's not funny. That wild meeting lasted all night. I feel your pain. Really, it's not funny, Tomitake-san. So what's going on with the dam construction? Are they really going to submerge this village? Tokyo's applying their pressure to the situation too. Things might seem clamorous on the surface, but in truth, the supporters behind it are wavering rather hard. I hope their pressure produces effects soon. The whole village is buzzing with action from dusk to dawn, and I worry the villagers' minds are growing agitated. Sometimes I have to listen to my patients go on and on about their opinion on the dam construction plan. Why do you even listen to them? You're too nice. I have to. I'm a clinic director first, and research center director second. It's part of my job to listen to them. It's very nice of you. It's admirable. I know the people in Tokyo will call off the plan sooner or later, but the villagers won't. So they have to live in fear that they might be forced to leave the land where they've lived for generations. Even if they're told to leave, they don't have money, and a lot of them are old. Maybe some wanted an increase in the amount of compensation they'd be offered, but the government changed its mind. I don't think it's possible for them to come to a peaceful agreement at this point. There were actually some villagers who were satisfied with that amount and were willing to leave. However, the Sonozaki family didn't want to change their stance against the issue. They're actually leading the villagers in the fight against the government. There are blaring announcement vans everywhere, and ads and flyers are attached to the circulation notices. It's a serious matter for them. I guess I can understand. I mean, it's serious for you guys, too. I hope the construction plan will be called off soon, for their sake. Once it's called off, this village will be peaceful once again. I know that, of course. Things are moving right along in Tokyo, so please give us a little more time. I've heard a rumor from Tokyo that you're having problems finding a way to pressure the Minister of Construction. Is that true? Oh, I'm not sure, but I've heard myself that they are having a little problem with some of the details. Takano had powerful people supporting her, but they didn't control all of Japan. There were some things they excelled in, but also other things that they weren't too good at. Finding a way to put pressure onto the Minister of Construction fell into the latter. In all seriousness, though, we really won't be facing any requests to leave this area because of the dam, right? Of course not. I can guarantee that won't. It's just taking longer than we thought, that's all. So please continue your research. We were told that if things can't be resolved peacefully, then we may have to use drastic measures. Drastic measures? What do you mean, Tomitake-san? You don't need to worry about that part, Director Irie. Please let us take care of it. I see. Okay. Thank you for your work. It's fine, Director Irie. The dam construction plan will be called off. It's already been decided. As Takano giggled, Tomitake laughed too. However, Irie couldn't understand what was so funny, so he felt left out. Irie only understood the meaning of these drastic measures when he examined a young boy he had never seen in the village before. Right, I almost forgot about Irie seeing the boy. So I guess that's the end of this fragment. Right? Come on. Yep. Now let's keep going. Queen Carrier. Results. Research. Repetitive apologies are required. Must not be allowed to visit his sister at the clinic. His sense of responsibility as a big brother is required. A bat to beat her to death is required. Irie's background, his reminiscence. This fragment is required first. Rika's high fever. Jiro Tomitake's slight fever. So you need both of those first. Alright. Group physical exams are very, very meaningful for our research. Although it's only for certain age groups, we can examine many of the Hinamizuan residents at the same time. It's a perfect cover for our research center. Also, because of several arrangements, we can have a monopoly on the villagers' corpses, and can perform autopsies on them too. There certainly wasn't an environment this rich in opportunity for those in the medical field. Our follow-up on the work of the late Dr. Takano is going smoothly. The amount of data he compiled is absolutely astounding. He truly was an incredible researcher. Excuse me, Director? Oh, Takano-san. Thanks for your work. We just received the rest of the test results from Tokyo. Here they are. Thank you. It's getting interesting, isn't it? I'm glad we can share this joy. Takano-san is my assistant, who was sent from the Self-Defense Force. But she's far from the image I have of an SDF officer. Just like our research is being concealed, maybe her identity is concealed too. I'm sure her name is an alias as well. I'm just a doctor and a researcher. Without Takano-san's support, it would be impossible for me to manage this institution. She's a pipeline to her clients in Tokyo, my assistant, as well as a researcher who's an expert on Hinamizawa syndrome. Her existence is absolutely necessary here. The more I think about it, the more I feel this should have been the Takano Institute, rather than the Irie Institute, and she should have been the director. But that was explained to me when they asked me to take this position. My client wanted a civilian to manage this place. They searched for a person who met their requirements, and there I was. I became the director. I have a feeling I'm just a puppet on their strings. But I won't just sit here and do nothing. I was asked to research a rare disease. I'm a researcher, so of course I'm excited about that. My client's goals might be different, but I'm here out of the desire to unravel the mysteries of Hinamizawa syndrome, and be the first person to uncover a new mystery for mankind. We have all this data that suggests the existence of a parasite as the cause of the syndrome, yet we still can't find factual evidence of the culprit microbe itself. That's true. I thought we'd find it easily if we used an electron microscope. Viruses are too small to see with a regular microscope, so the invention of the electron microscope was a dramatic advancement in the world of medicine. However, it's very expensive, and there's no way for a normal doctor to acquire one. The late Dr. Takano said an electron microscope could find the cause of the disease, but it seems his theory has been proven wrong. Even Takano-san was hoping an electron microscope would find it. She was disappointed when she didn't uncover anything after all the autopsies she performed. Our research seems to be having its first snag. It has actually stalled our work for several weeks now, so we need to think about where to go from here. Which means they're either smaller than microscopic, or maybe there is something wrong with the specimen itself. What do you mean? For example, as you know, wild mice have tons of fleas on them, but you can't find fleas on dead mice. That's because when the mouse dies, their habitat dies as well. So, if the host dies, the parasite's world will end too. That's right. Just like you won't find a living human in a post-apocalyptic world. Therefore, we just have to look into the earth before it ends, right? That's true. However, we need to think about human rights. It's hard to look into a brain while the patient is still alive. Examining a living human's brain, no matter how you sugarcoated it, that bore very grave meaning. From a medical standpoint, it's necessary. But we have rules and morals in this world, and we have to advance medicine within such boundaries. There was a time when I was studying lobotomies for the betterment of mankind. I don't think I was wrong. However, could I ever be forgiven under our ideas of ethics? I don't know. One day my judgment will be handed down by the devil. Whether I'm guilty or not, I have to accept it. As I reflected upon my past, I heard a voice. It was Takano-san's. It was very clear and simple. Yet, it struck me with surprise. Understood. Let me prepare a world on the verge of death. What? I'm startled. Sometimes the phrase advancing medicine bore the whisper of the devil, tempting us to accept sacrifices. I heard that devil whisper. It's not that difficult. I just have to find a Hinamizu resident who is about to die, that's all. But, even if they're about to die, who would be brave enough to provide their body for research while still alive? Don't worry about that. If they're dying anyway, we're just going to put them to sleep a little sooner. On paper, of course. The patient would be legally declared dead, even though they're still alive. And we perform an autopsy while they're still alive. That's impossible. Besides, if we perform neurological surgery, we have to do a circular incision on the cranial area. Their family will notice the marks for sure. That's where we come in. I'll have the mountain dogs look for a patient in the local hospital that matches our needs immediately. All you have to do is wait with a knife and a fork in your hands. And a fork. I'll bring you a meal right away. Mio Takano-san is my partner. There's no question about that. But I just can't trust her. It's her extremities as a researcher which contrasts largely with mine. But are we so different? I'm here simply waiting with a knife and fork in my hands, just as she told me to. I just don't want to witness such a gruesome scene, that's all. What she's preparing for me now is exactly what I want. Who's the hypocrite? Not her. It's me. How can I say I'm different, knowing what I've done in the past? I performed lobotomies without the patient's consent, despite it being surgery that might affect their life forever. How is that different from what she's doing? I have never doubted my past achievements. However, when I look at her, I start to feel unease. Takano-san is talking to Okunogi-san on the intercom in my office. I'm sure she's telling him to come over so she can explain what was just discussed. I'm simply watching without stopping her. I begin to reflect on my past, to remember why I chose to become a doctor. That's the end of that one. So I think this is the thing where it says research is stalled, right? So maybe I can go back to that previous fragment that required it. I'm just going to check real quick. It's around here, right? Going well. No. No? Oh. Could have sworn it was around here. Oh, it's different. Wait, I can click it? Huh. Alright, I'm going to skip through this because I have a feeling I shouldn't have skipped. Alright, let me go back for a few seconds because it might be like, no, you shouldn't have done this yet. Alright, yeah, I'll just go back and read through this real quick. There. That very night, the head of the Furude family, the priest, gathered his wife and Rika together for a family meeting. In Himizuwa, it was a tradition for the three families to gather and discuss the village's issues. So, it was hardly unusual for big families like the Sonozaki family and the Kimiyoshi family to have meetings beforehand to sort out opinions among themselves. However, the Furude family had lost its branch families, so there were only 3 of them left. So until that day, they had never had a family meeting at all. What is it? You're being so formal. Is it about the dam construction? The dam was the most important issue in the village at the moment. The wife naturally assumed the priest wanted to talk about the dam. For him to gather all of them together like that, it must be a huge decision he had to make. Perhaps he was going to talk about joining the pro-evacuation camp. No, it's not about the dam. But it's about something extremely important which concerns the village, and perhaps all the ancestors of the villagers too. So I'm just going to save here real quick, and then I'll start skipping through. Oh, quick save. There. Almost there. Alright, let's see if it says something. Oh, so it was right, I guess. Because that's both the Iri and Takano's thing, I guess. Can I re-click it? Oh, okay. I feel like it shouldn't have been done yet still. I'm just going to reload and not click it again. I'm sorry. Let me go through those 2 that I've already done. Let me just try clicking something that's wrong. Like, definitely wrong. Slaps goes to section, and his move to become a doctor. Oh, okay, so it does say that. Wait, what? It's shattered. Alright, let me do a quick load then. So let's try clicking that one again. Can't be connected, right? Yep, thought so. Alright, so let me just click on, which one is it? Here. Yeah, just him real quick, I guess. Quick load. Alright. The Furude family had served in the priesthood of Oyashiro-sama, the guardian deity of the village, for generations. So for him, the head of the family, to start out that way, it must be something extremely important. Yet, he said it wasn't about the dam, so what could he want to talk about? I married into this family, so I want you and Rika, who carry the true blood of the Furude family, to listen very carefully. You two aren't normal human beings. I'm the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama, right? Rika, you shouldn't say such things. Dear, let's talk about things like that without her. She's heard enough nonsense from the elderly people at the village hall already. What she just said about her being the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama, that appears to be true. But it sense. What? It's rather a long story. Please, just sit tight and listen to me. The wife had a dumbfounded expression on her face, not knowing what he was going to say, but Rika was completely relaxed, wearing her usual carefree expression. The priest started to talk after his wife calmed down. There's a disease in this village that has been here for many years. It's a special disease, which only exists here in this area. Everyone who lives in this village has the disease. Not only the people who live here now, but all the people who ever lived here had the disease. What? But we're all perfectly healthy. I've never heard of a disease exclusive to this village. Calm down. As long as we are here in this village, the disease won't cause any problems. But once you move away from this village, that's when it starts to act out. Do you understand? How can you expect me to understand such a thing? I have no idea what you're talking about. It's the same as the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Rika said it so calmly while her mother became frustrated. That's right. They say that when you leave this village, you're cursed. It's just like that. In other words, the curse of Oyashiro-sama, which our ancestors have feared for generations, is actually a disease that only exists in this village. How could that be possible? We've left the village before. Other villagers, too. Some have gone on business trips, and some even traveled to foreign countries. True, but that's probably because the disease has weakened over a long time, so it was going to disappear eventually. But the business with the dam disrupted that process. Everyone knew that during the dam war, the entire village was aflame with agitation. Such excitement and emotional instability makes the disease stronger. I still don't know what you're trying to say. What we thought was a curse all this time was actually caused by the disease? That's right. All the rules Oyashiro-sama came up with were to protect the villagers from the disease. No way! Then Oyashiro-sama is actually a disease, not a god? How could that be? How can I explain that to the Furude family ancestors? Calm down. The faith in Oyashiro-sama won't change. The fact that Oyashiro-sama is watching over Hinamizawa will remain the same. It just means the disease producing Oyashiro-sama's curse was in this village since long ago. That's all. I won't accept that. How can I explain that to our ancestors? I just said that a few seconds ago. This is desecration of the Furude family's age-old traditions. No, this is desecration of Oyashiro-sama, who I just said we're not reincarnations of. Who told you such a thing? This isn't acceptable. In the first place, can you prove such a disease actually exists? I can. What kind of proof? Who gave it to you? The people from the Ministry of Health and the National Institute of Infectious Disease Prevention. They've already found the pathogen, and they're searching for a cure right now. I saw the documents and the samples last week. The people at the Ministry of Health call it Hinamizawa syndrome. No way. As long as you lead a normal life, the syndrome is harmless. But once you go far from Hinamizawa, or if you become emotionally unstable, it's easy for the disease to manifest itself. When the disease acts out, you can be possessed by your own delusions and, in the worst case scenario, you can go mad. They discovered this disease during the war. A distinguished scholar noticed that only the soldiers from Hinamizawa came down with a normal disease, and he's been researching it all these years. They explained some details of this research, but I'm sorry. They're too complicated for me to explain. If you don't believe what I'm saying, why don't you go listen to them yourself? At first, I was indignant too, wondering how they dared to blaspheme Oyashiro-sama and spout such nonsense. The area clinic was built to study the syndrome. It appears to be just a clinic on the outside, but it's actually a secret research center for studying the syndrome. Secret research? That's ridiculous! If it's actually backed by the Ministry of Health, why aren't they doing it out in the open? Well, I guess they can't. For example, think about leprosy victims who were misunderstood and exiled. They're still misunderstood and discriminated against even today, in fact. If the whole country finds out about this and thinks that everyone in Hinamizawa who has contracted this weird disease can go mad at any moment, it'll turn into chaos. The Ministry of Health has taken that into consideration and is working on developing a cure while keeping the disease a secret. Don't get me wrong, though. They aren't trying to put us on display or anything. They're trying to eliminate this disease and free this village from it. It was a different story from long ago when we supported ourselves, but nowadays it's impossible not to leave the village. If a simple act of leaving the village can trigger the disease, you realize how dangerous it is for the villagers, right? I'm repeating myself now, but in the recent dam protests, the whole village entered a strong, excited state, which is very bad for the Hinamizawa syndrome. If some villagers go crazy and do something horrible, it'll be all over the media. That's right. If that happens, it'll be too late. But how can I believe this? Are you sure we're dealing with people from the government? Are you sure that you aren't being tricked? I don't blame you for not being able to believe it. They said we can come take a look at their facility any time. I've seen it before, and I know that no mere fraud could have set up something like that. Even the big hospitals in Gogura don't have such large-scale equipment. If you can't believe what I just told you, you should go to the research center yourself and ask questions. They can explain it better than I can. They said if their explanation isn't good enough, they can explain it to you at the National Research Institute in Tokyo, or even at the Ministry of Health's main office. Whether I believe it or not, how are we related to that? It is said that the Furude family inherited the blood of Oyashiro-sama. And it's also said that if a girl was born for 8 continuous generations, that 8th generation girl would be the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama. Me. That's right. I'm the 7th, and Rika is the 8th generation. But what does that have to do with the disease? This Hinamizawa syndrome is caused by a type of parasite, although they're very tiny. You can't even see them with the naked eye. They say there's a sort of leader among these parasites. Are you saying that's the Furude family? It appears that the leader of these parasites is passed down through the generations, only by people with a direct bloodline to the Furude family. In other words, in the previous generation, it was you, and now it's Rika. Me. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. Why would it be something as disgusting as parasites in the first place? Calm down. I'm not good at explaining things. Please, have the experts explain it to you. According to them, studying this parasite leader is necessary in order to research the disease. No, I won't have anything to do with such suspicious research, and Rika won't either. I'm telling you to calm down. They think that Hinamizawa syndrome acts out when separated from the parasite leader, not the village itself. When you were little, do you remember villagers telling you that you had psychic powers? You were able to cure elderly people who got migraines after taking a long trip. That's the proof that you are carrying the parasite leader. The Furude bloodline has the power to cure people with the disease. To discover a cure, it's extremely important that we participate in their research. If they study me, will the villagers be saved? That's what they say. And all the villagers are infected? Me? Everyone else? Satoko too? Yes. Not only the people who live in the village, but their relatives in Okonomiya too. We're talking thousands of people. That's why the Ministry of Health spent so much money to build a specialized research center. But I object. How can you let Rika be a sacrifice for something that's suspicious? I don't mind. If Satoko can be saved, I don't mind being a sacrifice. I really don't mind. You be quiet, Rika. I absolutely refuse. I'll go talk to them and refuse them directly. I won't let them kill Rika in some crazy experiment. Besides, Rika is the one and only heir of the Furude family. What if something happens to her? The Furude family will die right there. Don't you see that? You need to think more about our family. That's why the villagers call you an opportunist. After all, don't you think it's odd? The Ministry of Construction is trying to submerge the village, and the Ministry of Health is trying to cure a disease. What in the world is going on? The Ministry of Health has warned that this disease could be triggered by a change in environment, so they're actually trying to have the Ministry of Construction stop the dam construction plan. You really should go to the research center. Why would they build such a huge facility in a location that could be submerged? Rika let out a big yawn. It was long past bedtime for a little girl like her. I'm going to bed now. Dad, please let them know I'm willing to participate, okay? Rika, you can't make such a decision without consulting me. Rika! Wait, Rika! The mother that called her a demon and whatnot. Let's go to some more firsts first. I think this one is one. Yep. Just go taking a look at these. That's not quite it. That's definitely not it. That's not it. These aren't it. That's still a little while out. My throat is already killing me. Probably going to be a short stream. The forecast said there was a chance of rain in the evening, but I didn't think it would rain so hard. We decided to wait at an abandoned bus stop for the rain clouds to clear. I'm sorry, Takano-san. Oh, don't be Jiro-san. I knew it would pour, so don't worry about it. Takano-san giggled. Although she said the weather might change suddenly, I dragged her out here. I feel stupid for making her come along and ending up ruining her precious day off. I have to go back to Tokyo tonight, so it'll be a while before I can return to Hinamizawa. I didn't want to spend my last day at a cheap hotel in Okonomiya, so I asked her to go for a stroll. It's just, I'm really sorry. She teased me for a while, but only a little. She wasn't actually enjoying driving me into a corner. That's just her way of communicating, and I find it very charming. I think I've become captivated by her, but on her part, I'm just an auditor from Tokyo. That's why she's being nice to me. And it's definitely not because she likes me personally. So I feel like I might have used my position to drag her out here, and that makes me a little depressed. I probably should think the slight fever I have is due to nothing more than a cold. Ooh, he has a slight fever. But she was the type of person who made it clear when she disliked something. She wouldn't say so directly, but she would use all kinds of indirect expressions that meant the same thing. So I want to believe she's out here because she might be even a little bit attracted to me. I shook my head as I frowned upon my selfish thoughts. She chuckled as though she knew what I was thinking. I felt myself starting to go red after that. You're a mysterious person, Jiro-san. I bet women don't leave you alone, huh? So why are you hanging out with a weirdo like me? A weirdo? No way! You're fascinating, Takano-san. Actually, I feel bad for making you spend a day with someone like me. Of course, I've decided to devote my life to my work, but life is too dry with only that. I need to switch gears once in a while. Besides, communicating with the opposite sex is good for the brain. It's all good if I manage to help you clear your head. Don't you feel refreshed just being with me? She gives me an impish smile that makes my heart skip a beat. I tried hiding my embarrassment so she wouldn't notice even my ears going red. Of course. When I'm with you, I do feel refreshed, yeah. Besides, if you learn about avian photography, I'll gain a buddy to share my hobby with. So next time, I'll bring my old camera. It's really expensive to buy a new one, you know? Thank you. I'd love to learn about the avian photography that you're so intrigued by. I'm looking forward to joining you on a stroll next time you go. So I don't need to buy a camera, do I? No. Try with my old camera first, and if you enjoy it, then you can buy one for yourself. I'll send it to you when I get back to Tokyo. Thank you. I'll have you critique my photos when you come next time. Sure. I can hardly wait to see them. Oh, picnic basket. They'd be nothing compared to yours. It'd be my very first time doing it, you know? While she keeps her cool and smiles, all I can do is blush and scratch my head. Am I being conceited? I can't help but think that Takano-san likes being with me. If it's mere flattery, I don't think she'd come along this far. Oh, no. Taking woman's flattery seriously is the mistake I always make. I shouldn't assume that she's attracted to me. By the way, isn't this the first time we've been alone like this? Ah, yeah, you're right. Usually the director or some other research staff is around. I don't know anything about you. I don't know exactly what you do in Tokyo, or what you've done in the past. I wonder what you do in the self-defense force. I was an instructor for a while, but I hurt my eye when I was injured. I can live a life normally, but they made a big deal out of it, and ever since, all I do is desk work. Takano-san giggles, saying I must have done something silly to cause the injury. And when I helped PR with their magazine, I became fascinated by photography. Cameras have the power to make people happy. I bet you don't know what I'm talking about, but it's true. Since I started to take pictures, my life has been a lot happier. How can a camera make someone happy? Well, a camera takes a snapshot of a moment of life. Of course, you want to capture a moment that's filled with happiness, right? So you look for happiness through the viewfinder. And as you search, you realize your everyday life is actually filled with happiness. For example, a dandelion sprouting from the crack of the asphalt is just a weed in a busy life. But when you look at it through the viewfinder, it's a gift to let you know that spring is approaching. You capture it and put it in an album. And every time you open the album, you remember the happy feeling you had when you took the picture. So you always feel that way when you take your pictures? Sure. I don't have ambitions of taking artistic photos or capturing a dramatic prize-winning moment. That's not important to me. I want those moments we don't notice. And helping us recognize those little moments of happiness is the greatest thing about cameras to me. So I'm really glad to be able to see Hinamizawa through my viewfinder. I have a tendency to go overboard when I talk. But most of the time, Takano-san playfully twists my words right back at me. So it's very unusual for her to listen to me like this. Takano-san sat down next to me and tried to fiddle with my camera. I don't know how much of an impression I made, but I think she is indeed interested in cameras. I was expecting her to tease me like usual, so I'm happy to see that this is her reaction. Do you want to try? Do you think I can? It's easy. First, you just need to learn how to focus and press the shutter. Why don't you hold it? Oh, don't ever touch the lens, though. Ooh, this isn't easy. Since she seemed to show an interest in cameras, I wanted to take a walk around Hinamizo and take some pictures of the scenery. But unfortunately, the rain is still going on. But she was still having fun and kept taking pictures inside the bus stop. So the first set of pictures she ever took were of odd things in that dark little building. Since then, every time we'd meet, we ended up walking around the village with our cameras in our hands. Gotta find the next one. Bottle of wine, promise, emergency manual. Oh, here's the first one. Where are all these? Oh, Sachi. Where are all these? 7 fragments are required. Oh, this is the final thing. Range of Neo Takano. Keiichi changing schools. What is this? The game board must be set up. Oh, Higurashi. A fragment from... Oh, okay. Watanagashi? Miyakashi, Tatari Kuroshi, and then it's probably Miyagaroshi. Yeah. So it's... Okay. Right, so let's go back. Conflict between the Hojo and Sonozaki. That's a beginner one. Strawberry milk candy. A red capsule. The tea set on the veranda being put away, and his father inspecting a vacant lot. Mysterious death of Fude, so that's the 4th year. A watermelon from the Sonozaki family. 4th year's curse is required. Oh yeah. Footsteps in the 4th year. Alright, so this is the beginning of this stuff, right? Yep. Yep, so you do these two. So the dam construction will bring in new jobs and revitalize the local industry. That's not what we're saying. Who the hell gave you permission to build a dam here? You squeeze tax money from us and this is what we get in return? Who do you think pays your salaries, huh? Look, we're trying to explain to you. We don't want to hear excuses. We want to know when you'll stop the construction. You're useless. Bring the Minister of Construction here. He'll get to the bottom of it. Shut up, you yuppie. Hey, you're paid with our tax money, so why the hell are you talking down to us from up there? Come down here and let's speak face to face. The auditorium is filled with angry shouting. The sign at the entrance says, Hinamizo Dam Construction Explanatory Meeting. Every time the official on the stage tried to say anything, the citizens packed into the room silenced him with their shouts. Trying to ignore them, the official continued to explain the pros of the dam, but that just further infuriated them. Between the stage and the citizens, there was an open area where a police squad is standing by. If they weren't there, the citizens would jump onto the stage and start a riot. I'm watching all this from the back of the auditorium. It's obvious to anyone that they're being swallowed by their anger. They become filled with a bloody red rage. The anger that came from a certain purpose becomes a purpose in itself, and it creates a vicious cycle where anger leads to more anger. Anger is a necessary emotion for humans. People face many difficulties in their lives. Anger gives them the motivation to fight and conquer such difficulties. Therefore, anger is an essential part of life itself. So I'll never reject anger itself. However, anger like this, that goes far beyond normal, makes people forget their purpose. That is no longer an essential part of life. As the blood rushes to their head, person can't remember what they've done, they go out of control. Such emotions are very painful, sad, and difficult to endure. I can clearly see the villagers who live alongside us turning into demons. I understand the rules of the human world. The power of an individual can't be compared to the power of the government. To be able to fight, an individual needs to become part of a larger, unified power. But to steer that unified power in the right direction is extremely difficult. The cycle of anger leads to more anger. Not anger that helps you live, but anger that exists only for anger. It's just like being a demon, and this emotion is capable of violently rousing us from our long, peaceful slumber. Everyone is immersed in their own anger. We lived peacefully with the villagers while we slept quietly. Yet now we've awakened, and it's like the world is trying to return to that age when demons were said to rise from Onigufuchi's swamp. I keep shouting at everyone to get them to calm down, but my voice can't reach them because of the vicious cycle of anger. Even so, I'll continue shouting, hoping even one of them will hear my voice. Because if I don't do anything, the demons may awaken. The demons that went into a deep sleep may reawaken because of this commotion. Then, all of a sudden, the atmosphere changed. Looking up, I saw the angry exchange between villagers and those on the podium had devolved into confrontations between the villagers themselves. What's going on? Shut up. Those are your reasons, not ours. Don't pull us into this, you old hag. Who the hell cares? The hell you say, you bastard? Hey. Do you know who you're talking to? This is Oreo-san. You got some nerve, huh? Who the hell do you think you are? Shut up. Sonozaki? So what? I'm Hojo. Get your goons away from me. Ah, this is the confrontation between the two. Hey, Hojo. How dare you say that you want the village to be submerged? How much are they paying you? Shut up, you old geezer. Geezer? Listen, there are plenty of poor people in Hinamizawa. Not everyone is rich and has fields all over the mountain like you do. I'm satisfied with the compensation from the government. They've even offered to provide us with public housing. Yet you're ruining everything, you assholes. Don't pretend you're the same as us. If you want to fight with the government, why don't you fight by yourself? Then who's going to pay? You? I'm poor and have 2 kids at home. I was planning to start a new life by leaving here in peace after getting compensation from the government and finding a job elsewhere. But you, since when did you represent me, huh? Do you think you're that important or what? Hey, Hojo! How dare you betray us? Get out of this village. Sure, I'll be happy to. But you're going to pay what I'm entitled to, right? You're going to pay me every yen of the compensation I was going to get from the government. Even if I wanted to leave the village, I don't have the money. If you're going to pay me, I'll leave straight away. Hojo's right. There are plenty of residents who are willing to leave. You 3 families shouldn't drag us into this. Hell is this? Who just spoke? Come on, who was it? If you want to stay, then stay. We have the right to leave, so don't interfere. That's right. Back the hell off, you damn Sonozaki hag. Of course we'll compensate the people who support the dam construction plan. We most certainly will not steal the land from you. Shut up, government dog. Are you trying to divide the village? Die, Hojo. You don't deserve to breathe the village air. Hold your breath and suffocate to death. Screw you, old hag. I'll murder your ass. Step up front, you damn hag. Hey, stay out of this, you fat pig. Very good. That was very good, Hojo. I haven't been this pissed off in so long. You'll get what you deserve. Look forward to it. Get him, Hojo. The government has to provide us new jobs, shelter, and compensation. Hey, stop this violence. All of you, stop it. Like hell, bring it on. Come and get some. Everyone is being tainted with the bloody red anger, and I can only watch. The least I can do is to apologize for the tragedy that is about to happen. I'm sorry. This is how things started. From this day onward, the Hojo family and the Sonozaki family will wage a feud against each other, and the Hojo family will become ostracized within the village. This marks the beginning of Satoko and Satoshi's lives of tremendous hardship. So I guess that's where the spam of apologies starts from. In the fragment area. I think it was on like the 2nd page. I'll see in a few seconds. Somewhere around here, right? Help from the Queen Carrier. I think that's one I just unlocked. There it is, yep. Oh yeah. See, it's like both of these are quite linked together. I remember that's Rena's thing. Help from the Queen Carrier, we have that. The first sacrifice, live specimen for research is required, and a tragedy. Yep, so we already have that. First one. That's a while. Oh, second sacrifice, okay. Oh, these are just all the sacrifices in a row. That's nice. Distrust of her. That's a while away. Serious death, that's the third. That's the fourth. Aries background. His reminiscence, so that's literally right there. Routine inspection. I think I have this? I'm not too sure. Disappointment. Koizumi dead. Deletion of that. Jiro's slight fever is there. Rika's isn't there yet. Old guy. It's not there. Roll of 1. Bottle of wine for a toast. Jiro's promise. Emergency manual. Not there yet. What is this? Rika and Satoko's shopping trip is required. And the Shinto priest contacting the area institute is required. So that's still a while away. That's also long off. I have that after I do his fragment there. His part-time job, that's a while off. T-set, nope. That's still a while away. Your family move is required, that's a while still. Awareness of his sins, death of the fruity couple is 3rd year. Red capsule, that's a while away. Strawberry milk candy. Oh, another first. Conflict between them, I have that now. After that, it's all fragments. So over here I have Sachi, and then I can do Satoko. I think that'll be it for today. When I asked Rika-chan, she said Satoko might have possibly gone up to the mountain behind the shrine. She's fond of going in there. That mountain is covered in with trees. Vines and fallen logs, and she really likes the area. Any child would dream of having a secret base, and to Satoko, her secret base is the whole mountain. However, the mountains were undeveloped territory, making them a dangerous place that was easy to get lost in. As her brother, I'm a little concerned that she'd spend so much time on it, but maybe I should worry more about myself getting lost since I rarely come here. The mountain gets dark quickly when evening falls. If I still can't find her, I should look for her somewhere else. Satoko! Satoko! I'm yelling as loud as I can, but in the woods, my voice doesn't carry that well. According to Rika-chan, she's been making her secret base in this area. She goes up there alone to expand it. What does she mean by expand it? If it's a secret base, she must not want anyone to find it. Does that mean she set up some traps? Considering that, I should have noticed the traps on the mountain before one got me. Whoa! Suddenly my foot sunk into the ground and snagged onto something like a jump rope, tied beneath dried leaves. I heard some noise from above, and then a big ball made of branches fell right next to me. It had to be one of the playful traps Satoko loved. If I wasn't so lucky, I'm sure the ball would have hit my head. Oh my! Look who's here! It's you, Nini! Satoko? No, this kind of horseplay is dangerous. Did you not see the sign put up by the Forestry Service? It clearly states it's dangerous to come into these woods. My wonderful traps will welcome anyone who ignores that warning. Oh! As her brother, I should stop her from doing things like this. But when I see her brilliant smile, I can't say anything else. I haven't seen that smile in some time. By the way, Satoko, weren't you told to come home by evening, since we're going out for dinner tonight? I don't want to go. Why don't our mother and father go by themselves? If you want to, you can go with them, Nini. Are you still angry at father? He threw an ashtray at me. No, that happened with our previous father. Our current one hasn't done that. He locked me out on the veranda. He didn't feed me lunch. He complained and I got him the wrong brand of cigarettes. Then he slapped my face saying I shouldn't be a picky eater. And then, she isn't talking about our current stepfather. Things about all of our different stepfathers have mixed themselves up in her head. Every time my mother remarried, we had to call a different man our father. The word father isn't a word that should be taken lightly. If you don't truly acknowledge a man as your father, how can you call him that? That's how much weight it carries. However, just to make things smooth and peaceful, I used the word father even if I didn't want to. But it was too difficult for Satoko, young as she was, to do the same. Ever since Satoko was very little, she's been having troubles with all our stepfathers. She's never opened up to our current one. To Satoko, a father figure is no longer someone she can trust. It's true that our current stepfather doesn't have any experience being a parent, so he sometimes gets rather upset with her. But ever since the incident where Satoko called the child abuse hotline, our stepfather regretted his mistakes and tried his best to communicate with her. Even my mother realized how much Satoko has suffered emotionally when it was pointed out by the social worker. She's doing her best in trying to bring Satoko back into the family. But Satoko completely refuses to even try. It's understandable, though. Her childhood has been filled with misery. Satoko can only open up to me. That's why I have to be the one and only family member she can trust. Otherwise, she'll be all alone in this world. But a brother and a sister alone can't be considered a family. Even if we don't get along now. If we can continue to communicate, even in a small way, we may be able to become a real family someday. Satoko, our current stepfather is getting nicer. He says he wants to make up with you. That's news to me. That's because every time he tries to say something, you run away. He wants to talk to you. He says he won't make you eat pumpkin anymore. That's a lie. He said I couldn't leave until I ate my pumpkin, and he tied me to the chair. Again, she isn't talking about our current stepfather. Satoko, just come home with me, okay? Mother got a free dinner coupon, and we don't want it to go to waste, do we? We already have the reservation, so we have to go today. Why don't you go, Nini? I prefer staying home alone. Satoko usually doesn't stay out playing this late. She knows we're going out, and that's why she's out here alone. Although I want to snap at Satoko, I controlled myself. Because she only has me. I can't scare her. Please, let's go home, Satoko. You don't have to decide to go or not right now. You can think about it after we get there. Besides, without your help, I can't find my way down the mountain. Nini, I've brought you here so many times already, and yet you still haven't learned? What am I going to do with you, Nini? Satoko holds out her hand. She often says she's embarrassed to hold my hand in front of people, but she's holding out her hand right now. I took that hand. Satoko's fragile hand. I have to protect her, as her big brother. Let's go home, Satoko. Sure. Actually, I think I'll stop here and I'll leave that last fragment to remind myself. I should write notes of what I have unlocked next time. I think that's a good idea. Just because otherwise I won't remember in a week or whatever. Alright, give me 1 second. I'm going to go through these bit by bit. No, no, no. We don't have the dissection yet, I think. Don't have that yet. Right, we don't have the sacrifices. Query page 2. No. Murder page 2. No. 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 Yes. Aries background, page 3. Routine inspection. Maybe? I'm going to question that. Disappointment? Not yet. Deja vu? Not yet. We're missing her high fever. The old guy, we don't have that yet. But I think that's coming from the quarry, so. Roll of 1, we don't have that. We don't have this. Suffering? No. Conflict and Satoko. Was that Satsuko or was that Sachi? Let me check real quick. Oh, I have to do that first. I'm going to write down Satsuko followed by siblings. Page 5 plus 4. What is this one? Footsteps? Don't have that. Don't have that. Suffering? No. Previews of lots? Don't have that. New wind. Ryugu family's move? Watermelon? No. Formation of the club? His awareness. And the death of Furude? No. Keiichi? No. Rena? No. Milk candy? No. Already got that written down. Conflict. Let's write down Rika. Page 5. After that, we have the game boards and whatnot. So that's it. Okay, so we hit exit. I have written down everything that I should be able to do right now. So we'll hit save here. And we end for today. Next stream is Tuesday. I'm not actually sure what's replacing Returnal yet. I'll tweet it out sometime tomorrow, probably. Have a good rest of your day, morning or evening. Bye-bye.